Welcome to the Icy Insights podcast. Here is your host, James Roy.
Hey everyone, James Roy here, host of Icy Insights. Thanks for joining us. Today I have a very special guest named Phill Fong, and him and I have gotten to know each other quite a bit over the past few months. Um, Rock solid dude. I'm excited to have you on. Phill, if you could just real quick, kind of give us a little bit about what you do, who you are, where you're from, and then if you want to give any information about how to reach out to you, that's up to you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So my name is Phill Fong. I recently retired from the Navy December of 22. And since then, kind of my adventures have kind of taken me all kind of different places. But as of right now, I'm currently working with Operation Healing Forces. It's a nonprofit here in Tampa that supports special operations and their families. And primarily what we do is couples retreats. But the program that I manage is it's a program where we take care of benevolent and crisis situations that our operators could be in, and we take care of that financially to cover any gaps, whether TRICARE or the VA is not covering. So big spread of support for that community there.
Such a good community. It's such a great organization too, man. I'm just flabbergasted by the stuff you guys do. And the other charities and organizations just like yours, that exist to serve, our heroes really. So thank you guys for all that you do, your whole team, man. You guys are awesome over there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hopefully soon you can meet the rest of the team.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. But the reason that we're here today, we're going to talk about cold water immersion, cold plungers, ice baths. And give me a little bit about, cause you do it, right? So you're an enthusiast, you're kind of a junkie like me. But give me your backstory on like what happened at some point in your life. You're like, you know what? Jumping in 40-degree water just sounds like it's a good idea because you got to be a little crazy to do it, I think, at first. But like, what happened? What's the backstory of kind of how you got into it? Like, why you took your first plunge?
Gotcha. So, cold water therapy has always kind of been in my background. I've always been an athlete ever since, I was a kid. And I remember in high school, they always had those old-fashioned cans full of ice. And, after the game or the next day, it was always like ritualistic that, you had to spend some time in the ice. And that kind of transferred over to my service in the military. Being in the special operations community, they typically have, nice facilities. They have all the best support, whether it's, recovery, workout equipment. And when I was at Stennis Space Center, Mississippi, they had a cold plunge. This is, back in, 2010. They had a big, it looked like a big hot tub, but it was cold. And that was another one of those opportunities where, 6 or 7 of us could get in there after a workout and we'd see how long we could stay in ridiculously cold water, which, you learn over the years that, your ego, you got to get over your ego and, 15 minutes in ice cold water is not necessary. But since then, I had a stint as an athlete while in service. I got to compete around the world. Rowing, powerlifting, shot put, discus. And it's always kind of been in the background where, I knew that I needed to do it. I wasn't quite sure of how and why and what it was doing, but I knew that it made me feel better. And as a matter of fact, the organization that I work for now was able to support me with a cold plunge back in 2019. And I'm a huge fan. I'm a junkie, I guess you could say. And I, love to talk to you about, how, I ebb and flow through the different, protocols, but yeah, definitely a part of my day.
So how long have you been, like, when was your first plunge? How long ago was that?
First plunge at my house.
Ever?
So yeah, like I said, back in high school. So, in the 90s, plunging, after the football game in those old metal,
It's just full of ice.
just full ice.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So, obviously you've been doing it for a long time, right? A lot of people are just kind of getting into it, just kind of learning about it as it's becoming more, people call it trendy, but I mean, the benefits have been there for a long time. It's just, I think people are wrapping their head a little bit more around it now going, hey, I should be doing this too. It's not just athletes. It's not just, people who need muscle recovery. And there's so many benefits to it. But so tell me, like, since you've been doing it for so long, like, what's your ritual? Like, do you do it at morning, night, how many days a week, what temp? Like, what's your fun ritual?
Gotcha. So I would say my rituals kind of shifted several times depending on what I was doing. In the military, as when I was near the facility, I could jump in. I typically would after a workout or just a day that I was pretty sore. Um, you know, when I was in the realm of training like an athlete, I typically would do it on my days off or after a workout, 2 to 3 minutes here and there. Once I got my own cold plunge at home, that's when things kind of changed for me as far as, what it looked like. And this is whether I was training like an athlete or, just being a dad, right? Just waking up and doing the duties of taking the kids to school. But it started at me doing it daily in the morning. And I liked really cold. So I would drop it down to 36 as close as I could get. And I would spend, 3 to 5 minutes. And that was kind of like my meditation time. I had my cold plunge in my back patio, and I would just enjoy the view of the nature preserve in my backyard, listen to the birds, and just kind of zone out for a few minutes while I was in the cold plunge.
So 37, right? So as cold as you can possibly get it. But it's like the mental discipline that you build too of, you know what, I'm getting into it. I'm getting into it. It's my time. This is actually, I just interviewed a guy last week and he was a football player previous life. And he said the same thing. He's like, if the kids know, if dad's in the plunge, leave me alone. That's dad
Don't
time.
talk to me, please.
Now, tell me, is it typically before workout, after workout? Like, is it first thing in the morning or how does that work for you?
And that's kind of where it kind of shifts around. So um, when I first started, it was in the morning, and it was daily. Like I couldn't get past my day without getting in the cold plunge.
Mhm.
But then kind of in the middle of it all, I had to have surgery and I couldn't get in the cold water. So I had to take a break. After that break, I had to kind of work, just like if I was new to cold plunging again, I had to work my way back down temperature wise. And, I started at 45 and I
You
realized that.
started at 45. That's not really working your way back down, man. That's cold.
And yeah, it is, but I knew that it's far off from 37. So
Yeah.
I figured, I started doing it at 45 and I started liking the results that I was getting between 40 and 45. So,
Hmm.
I was like, well, let me try this out, see how this works. And then, 3 to 5 minutes, just depending on how I felt. And typically, I was doing it daily, but now, with the science is coming out, much more people involved, seeing the benefits and how long you actually need per week. Now, 3 to 4 times a week. Sometimes I do it before a workout, depending on what kind of workout. If I have a heavy day, I'll do it before. If I'm doing more cardio work, I'll typically do it after. But I'm staying in that range between 40 and 45, just whatever the tub temp is of the time I work out. I like to work out in the afternoon, but sometimes I have to in the morning. So it just kind of plays along with how my day is. I try to not set it as so much like a ritual. It's just part of my workout routine.
I love that. And I'm gonna sidebar here for a second too, and it has nothing to do with ice baths or cold plunges, but I know you're a sauna guy too. How I'm sure people that are gonna listen to this or watch this or hearing about saunas too. How has saunas helped you in terms of your mental, your physical? Like, it's something that I want to get into eventually too here. But between the ice and the hot, like how has saunas helped you with your recovery and all that?
I would say sauna, the biggest benefit that I see from sauna is the relaxation that I get. And I know there's a lot of other things cardiovascular that come along with it, but just sitting in there sweating and then, getting cleaned up afterwards, like mentally, you're just ready for bed, for me at least. Like it puts me in that, coming down off my day and really just, like I melt into the couch
You're typically doing it in the evening.
in the evening time for sure.
Yeah. And what temp do you crank that thing to?
So it doesn't really have a temp,
Oh,
but I put it on the max heat and I try to, usually hang out for at least 15 minutes. Now that the temperatures are hotter in Florida,
sure.
that 15 minutes is much harder to withstand, but it's definitely pretty hot.
You never
Uh,
taken a thermometer in there to see how hot it gets?
I've tried,
Doesn't really work.
being that it's kind of that wet heat. I think
Mm,
I've seen maybe like 115 at the most, but it feels much hotter.
yeah.
It feels pretty steamy in there. Like my parents were in visiting this past week, and they loved it. They were like, "Man, that's way hotter than I thought it was going to be," just because it's one of those portable saunas with a small steam generator. People don't think that's going to create that much heat, but it really does put out a ton of heat.
Probably feels smothering, like
Yeah.
just can't breathe, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. All right, so back to the cold. So how often do you change your water? Do you add any chemicals to it? Like what's your routine there?
So, the military definitely put me in this maintenance world where like I'm pretty strict. I check my water weekly. I have test strips that I use. I use sanitizer. I usually change my water between every 3 and 4 months. I have rituals where I use the same shorts. I let them dry. I try not to get soap on them because when you wash and launder stuff, it has soap. I try to make sure my feet are clean. I clean my strainer out weekly, and then I just kind of monitor the filter, monitor the pressure. And once I see that it's dipping low or I hear the sound of the pump change, typically about once a month, I'll change out the main filter. But I have gone longer. Um, you know, sometimes no clothes at all is even better, right? I have it in
Uh,
my garage now, so nobody has to watch.
that's awesome, man. I do the same thing though. I have the same clothes. I hang them out on the night, let them dry for the next day. Now you use the sanitizer. Is it just the iodized or what is it? There's a sanitizer, there's a iodizer, I think.
Oxidizer,
So are you getting it from what company is it? Is it the there's
Sorona.
like yeah, Serrano.
Yeah, Sorona. I order from
That's the
them.
one you get?
I order the kit. It comes with a test strip, comes with the oxidizer, sanitizer, and then I've also bought the calcium because I have a uh, a water treatment in my house. So I
Mhm.
have soft water at this point. So I use calcium to kind of balance it out. Uh, and then I use some metal control as well, just to kind of help.
Interesting.
Yeah, it kind of helps with some of the calcium, the calcium that builds up in the pipes and in the chiller itself. It's not just from heat that you get that calcium buildup; it's also from cold. So, and I have seen it. I've had to actually use vinegar to clean out my chiller. So
Mm. Now, where is you said it's outside? Oh no, you said it's in the garage now.
it's in the garage now.
So mine's in the garage. We live 10 minutes from each other. Are you getting a lot of condensation from your chiller?
It's nothing that would like drip and leak out my garage. It typically is just the hoses.
Hmm.
But I'll wipe down the hoses anytime I do a filter change. I'll wipe down the hoses, make sure there's nothing growing on them. But everything stays pretty clean in there.
That's good, man. That's good. All right, so let's shift into like maintenance and rituals and stuff, but tell me about the benefits, right? So there's a huge list of benefits that we could talk about for days, but give me like the top couple of benefits, two, three, even one. Like what's the major benefit or benefits that you get out of doing your CWI?
Gotcha. So for me is the first and most important is my mental clarity that I get and is like boost of energy. Um, Part of it is that you have to tell yourself that, you're not going to die. It's just a little bit of uncomfortableness. And, once you get past all that, you'll realize the benefit of feeling energized, feeling recharged, feeling like you're ready to go for the day, especially with a morning plunge. It kind of just carries you through the whole day. And then secondly, I would say is that something that I wasn't tracking was that, before I was cold plunging, I was, getting my blood drawn quarterly, checking my blood levels, checking everything. And I had not changed anything as far as medication, hadn't changed anything as far as dosing. Everything was continuously the same. And when I was getting my levels back, for example, my testosterone levels had increased and significantly. And I hadn't changed anything besides for the cold plunging. Talked to my doctors, they were like, well, we can't really say yes or no, that's why, but you haven't increased your dosage, you haven't increased anything else, change your diet, and you're training the same, we'll just say that that's probably what it is.
Mm.
So that's one of the other reasons why I kind of keep it up. I feel good.
Yeah, I've actually seen research lately showing there was actually a study that was showing from plunging before the workout increased the T. Now, it's some doctor, he has his own line of cold plunges that he saw or whatever. But it was interesting to see that. And what you do, I believe is spot on. And I've been, my wife and I go back and forth, and she's asked, when's the best time? I said, look, if you're doing steady state cardio or whatever, go after. But if you're going to lift heavy weights, go before, because if you lift heavy weights and then you jump in that thing and it restricts everything as your muscles are trying to grow, like if you do this, it's counterintuitive to what you're trying to do. And
Exactly.
so, but I've seen studies on it showing the increased T of plunging before you lift. So it's interesting to hear that you actually have blood work that shows that.
Yeah, my blood work, my actual doctor just wrote me like 2 days ago. She was like, I think I'm gonna push you over to another doc that's a little bit more kind of in that world of holistic, um, you know, with the testosterone medication, so they can follow you a little bit more close, because I went from just a normal level to like a very much higher level.
Wow, that's great, man. I'd like to hear off this. I'd like to hear more about what you find with that. So, all right. So if there's lots of new people to this whole realm of CWI and ice baths and whatever you want to call it. So if there's somebody new out there and they're just learning about it and kicking the tires, and because I hear all the time, oh, I could just never get in. I just never get in. What piece of advice would you give somebody who's like kind of on the fence about doing it?
So prime example is my parents. They came to visit, and trying to get them to get in, and the research is out there, right? They know it's good for them, but it's uncomfortable. I would say start with cold showers. Get yourself used to that feeling of like kind of losing your breath and having to control your brain to get back to normal. But start at a temperature that you don't have to start at 45. Start at 65 and work your way down. Find what's comfortable for you. There's no set time limit. The first time is 30 seconds. So be it. You got in the water, you did it, and baby steps.
I love that. And cold showers too. Like every single shower I take, I end on cold. Like it doesn't matter. And even if I do it after a plunge, and then I'll start, probably too much information, but last thing I do is wash my face. My head goes under the shower and my hand goes on the knob and just starts turning it down all the way until it shuts off. And then I go back just a little bit, just so it's the coldest. And after a plunge, I'm like, oh, this is kind of warm still. So it's like, but I tell my kids the same thing too. Always on a cold, always on a cold. Like it's just, you walk out of the shower, just, you're ready, you're
Yep.
energized. That's a great piece of advice. Well, man, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, and
Absolutely.
talk soon. Thanks for sharing your story, your testimony. And it's the whole purpose of this is to try to help people understand that there's, while there's not a ton of research, just talk to 10 people who are doing it, and you're gonna be like, wow, maybe it's something I gotta try. And like you said, it's baby steps. Start with a cold shower. Like we have, I really pushed a 30-day, like when I started a long time ago, 30-day challenge I gave myself, cold showers. Can I just do cold showers? It was eye-opening. And so, that's it's a great little tip. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Thank you so much for jumping on. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, talk to you soon. Thanks, James.